Meseches Bava Kamma Daf Gimel. We begin with the last 3 lines on Daf Vez. The Gemara is in the middle of searching for the toldos that are not like the avos. In the list of the many avos nazikin, which we had some in the Mishnah, some in the Brisa, we're trying to find which ones Rav Papa was referring to when he said there are some that are like the avos, meaning they have the same halachos, and there's some that are different than the avos. Where do you have a toldos nazikin that's different than its av? Where do you have a member of a category that is different than the heading of the category? So the Gemara is already discussed the av of Karen Hashor. We're going to continue working through the rest of the avos that we find in the Brisa and the Mishnah. We're going to explain what the source of each of them is, how we know that it's an av nezikin, what the toldos are, until we find one which is different than its av. So the Gemara is now up to Shein and Regel. Shein, as we said, is anything that an animal eats, where it knows what it's doing and is doing it intentionally, but it's not trying to destroy it, it's just trying to get its own instincts satisfied. And Regel is where it's not intending to do anything, it's just moving aimlessly and happens to destroy things along the way. So the Gemara wants to know, where does it say those two things in Psukim altogether that we were referring to them as an av nezikin? So the Gemara brings a pasuk in Shemos. It says, V'shilach es be'iroi, and he'll send his animal, ubir v'stei acher. So v'shilach and ubir, those are the two operative verbs here. V'shilach, the Gemara says, refers to regel, it's when it walks, it's when it moves with its feet. And ubir refers to food, that refers to eating with its teeth. Says the Gemara, how do you know that that's what each of those mean? So for that, the Gemara quotes a pasuk in Yeshaya, where it says, Mishalchei regel hashar v'hachamor. There you see that shilach is connected to regel, with feet. And as far as ubir meaning teeth, that's a bit more of a stretch in the pasuk. The Gemara says, we have kasher yiva'er hagolol adetumoi, yiva'er hagolol from the word ligalot, meaning to reveal. Teeth are revealed, meaning they are usually hidden, but there are times that they are revealed, and therefore that refers to teeth. So therefore we know that those two verbs are referring to foot and tooth. Now, the Gemara asks, why do we need a pasuk to tell me what each of these mean? There are 3 subcategories of ox hezek. There's Karen with the horn, Shein, and Regel. Karen, we already know that refers to goring. We already said that on the last daf. Shein, we have ubir. Why do I need a pasuk to tell me that shilach is regel? I can figure out on my own that's the only one left. So it has to be referring to regel. Why do I need a pasuk to link shilach to regel specifically? So the Gemara answers, if I would not have had that, I would have thought that there is no such thing as regel. It's not referring to regel. 2 types of tooth damages. There's one where the original plant, or whatever he's eating, is completely destroyed. It won't grow back. And then there's one where it's not completely destroyed. It is damaged, there's a loss, but it'll recover at some point. Now, if you would have only had the pasuk of ubir, I would have said that's referring to where the plant is destroyed, and that's where you have to pay for it. But if it's going to grow back, you don't have to pay for that kind of a damage. Therefore, I would need the pasuk of v'shilach, that's referring to also tooth damage, but it's referring to the tooth damage where it is not completely destroyed, to teach me that you chai for that also. And I would have learned the pasuk that way, and it would have not have said that v'shilach refers to regel, and therefore I need the Torah to tell me that v'shilach is referring to the regel. Says the Gemara, if that's true, so then how do you actually know that where the plant is not destroyed, that you are chai for that? The Gemara says that's because once we know that v'shilach refers to regel, and v'shilach, there is no difference between whether it's completely destroyed or not completely destroyed, and I know that because it doesn't use the word ubir, which refers to complete destruction. It doesn't say ubir, and therefore it's any type of destruction is included in that. And I assume that Shein is just like regel. Just like regel, there's no differentiation between the level of destruction, and Shein is also no differentiation between the level of destruction. Now, the Gemara has the exact same question in the reverse. Why do I need the pasuk to tell me that ubir refers to the teeth? If I have Karen and I have v'shilach referring to regel, I know that ubir has to be referring to tooth, because what else could it be referring to? And the Gemara says, no, it could be referring to regel. V'shilach refers to regel. So there's a difference. There's 2 types of regel, and I would have thought that v'shilach and ubir are both referring to regel. How so? So I would have thought that the second one is to tell me where the owner didn't send the ox there. Meaning Veshilach only refers to where he actually sent the ox, because it says Veshilach, he sent him. What if he didn't send him? What if the ox just wandered on his own? Then I would need the second pasuk of Ubir, where he did the destruction on his own. If those two psukim are referring to Regel, one for where he sent him and one for he went on his own, I would not know that there's anything left for Shane. And therefore, I need the pasuk to tell me no. Ubir refers to Shane. It doesn't refer to Regel. Says Gemara, now that you say that, how do you know that Veshilach refers to and includes even where he wanders on his own, the ox, and not where the owner sends him? The word Veshilach seems to indicate only where he's being sent. So that the Gemara answers, well, Shane doesn't have a differentiation between whether he's being sent to eat there or not being sent to eat there, and therefore you're chayav for both. There is no difference there. And Regel should be just like Shane, just like you have no such differentiation by Regel. By Shane, you have no such differentiation by Regel either. Gemara now asks, the word Veshilach is technically linked both to Regel and to teeth, and that should be enough. I shouldn't need Ubir at all. It's linked to Regel, we've already seen. It says Veshilach es be'iroi. Now it's linked to Shane as well, because it says V'shein behemois ashalech vam. I will send the tooth of animals upon them. So there you have ashalach linked to Shane. So why don't I just have the word Veshilach? And that includes both Regel and Shane. So Gemara says then you would have only known one of them. You wouldn't know which one to include, you wouldn't know which one to exclude, but you would only know one, and you would think it's one or the other. So the Gemara says, well, if I only knew one, then I would have to use both, because I have no reason to exclude any of them, and therefore I would have to include both of them. So the Gemara says, true, but it would have been limited to a Veshilach case. It would have been limited to where the owner sends the animal to go do whatever he's doing. Where he goes on his own would not be included. And that's why we have to have both of these, one for each. Okay, so we've established the sources for Shane and Regel. Now, which one has a tolda that's different than the av? So the Gemara says, what is the tolda of Shane? What is the subcategory of tooth of an animal eating things? So the Gemara says, well, when it rubs into a wall and knocks the wall down, it's trying to scratch itself. Or it rolls over in fruits and it destroys them. So these are hanas, these are pleasurable instincts that the animal is responding to when it's destroying things along the way. So these are toldos of Shane. It's not using a tooth, but it is related. So the Gemara says, well, why should it be different than Shane? And it would seem to have the same halacha. It's defined by the fact that there is a hana for the animal. The animal belongs to you. You're obligated to watch it and make sure it's not causing damage to others. And therefore, all of these are included, and the halacha should be the same. So therefore, Shane is not the one we're referring to when Rav Papa says that the tolda is different than the av. So let's try Regel. So how do you define Regel? So Regel is when it steps on something as it's walking. What's included in that? If it knocks other things over as it's walking, it destroys it with its hair hitting it, or with the saddle on the back, the bit in its mouth, the yoke on its neck, any of these things, if it causes a damage, these are all included. How do you define it? Anything which it happens often, it's a common activity, and it's your property, and you're obligated to watch it. That's your responsibility to pay for the damages that are caused, and therefore this is all included in Regel, and the halachas are the same. So again, Rav Papa is not referring to that. So we have to look further. What other avos do we have where the toldos are different than the av? So the Gemara next tries bar. A bar is a hole in the ground. It says the Gemara, what is the tolda of a bar? If you dig a hole in the ground, that's the av nezikin. Somebody falls in and he gets hurt, or an animal falls in and he gets hurt. So what is the tolda? So the Gemara tries a few attempts. First, the Gemara says maybe the tolda is if the hole is 10 tfachim deep. Chazal had a Kabbalah that a person cannot be killed, or an animal can't be killed by falling in a hole unless it's at least 10 tefachim deep. So a 10 tefach hole is the av, and a 9 tefach, meaning less than 10, that would be the tolda. So the Gemara says, well, neither of them, it says specifically, the Torah doesn't mention how deep it has to be. So Gemara says, well, you could view it as if it is mentioned, because it talks about a hole that kills. It says v'hamesi eloi, that the carcass belongs to the owner, and it also talks about nezikin, where it doesn't kill, it just injures. So therefore, you would say one is the av, that's the 10 tefach one, and one is the tolda. We know on our own through Kabbalah which one's which. So the Gemara says no, but each one is an av. The one that's for the Nezikin is an av in its own right. It's an av for Nezikin. You have an av for Misa and an av for Nezikin. So what then to try again. So the Gemara says another attempt. What is it told of a bar? The Gemara says where you leave something in the street. If you leave a knife, a stone, a bundle, something in the street, and somebody trips on it and he gets hurt. It's just like the bar where there's a stumbling block that's left there. Now, the Gemara goes a bit into the halachos of the bar here. There's a machlokes between Rav and Shmuel whether a bar is only your obligation if you're mafkir it. That is, if you own it, it's not the typical example of a hole in the ground is where you don't own the property. It's public property, and you dug a hole in the ground. You created a pitfall, literally, for others to get hurt. Now, if you leave a suitcase, so it belongs to you, according to Shmuel, that counts as the bar. The bar doesn't have to belong to you. A suitcase in the street is also yours. You've also set up a situation where someone can get hurt walking through the street. According to Rav, no. The bar is only if it doesn't belong to you. If it's like the hole where you dug in the ground. A suitcase that you left in the street, that's your property. That's like your shore. Just like your ox is yours and it causes a damage. This is yours and it causes a damage. Now, so either way, your suitcase in the street or your rock or your knife or whatever it is a tolda of something else. If it's a tolda of the bar, it's just like the bar. And if it's a tolda of the shore, like the ox, it's just like the ox. The way we define the bar is that it's created as a mazik. It's what's happening is you're creating a dangerous situation. You dig the hole, you've created it. So here you put it in the Rosh Hashanah and we've created the mazik. It's the same thing. So therefore, the Gemara has to move on. It's not the Tola of the bar, so maybe it's the next one that's listed in the Mishnah, which is Maveh. Now, as we'll see in the Gemara later, Maveh is not clear what that is. It's also machlokes between Rav and Shmuel. Shmuel says Maveh is actually Shane. So we've already said that the Tola of Shane is like Shane. So we're going to go with the Rav, where Maveh refers to an Adam, refers to a human. Now, the Gemara says, what are the obvious and toldes in the mazik, in the hezek, the damages that's caused by a human? So the Gemara tries a few attempts here also. So if you say that the av is when the human's awake and he's causing damages. The av is when he's asleep and he happens to break something in his sleep. So Gemara says that's not an av and a tolda. You have a mission that says that a person is responsible for everything he does, adamud la'ilam, whether he's awake or whether he's asleep. Gemara says, okay, so the av will be what he uses where he breaks something with his guf, the body, and tolda will be something that comes out of his body. Let's say he spits, and that causes damage. So it's not his actual body. That would be a tolda of the human. Someone says, well, let's examine this. If it spit straightly into something and it destroyed it, or it made it ruined, or let's say he spit in somebody's food, so that's the Adam Hamazik. That's he did that. That's his koyach. It's something that he did. You can't say his spit did that. He did that. If it's that he spit and it was in the street and someone slipped on it, so that's just like the bar. So then again, you have no situation where something is a tolda that's different than anything else. Someone says, okay, we'll go to the next and final example, and that's fire. One of the avos nezikin is if you lit a fire and the fire moved, it was carried by the wind and it burned something. So Rapapa was referring to that. The tolda of that is different than the fire itself. Someone says, okay, what is the tolda of fire? And that's not going to be so simple either. So the Gemara says, well, it's when you left something on your roof and it got blown off the roof and it hurt someone. So let's say you left a box or a rock or a knife on the roof, got blown off the roof. That's like the fire because it's traveled, it's pushed by the wind, and it causes a damage because of the wind energy that's imbued in it. But it's your responsibility. You created it. So the Gemara says, well, let's go carefully here. If it was traveling under pressure by the wind, and that's how it caused the damage, and it's the same as Aish. Fire is the same exact thing. It's yours, and there's other koyach in it, and you're responsible for it. The only other option is that it was blown off the roof by a ruach she'ina mitzuya, where you could not have anticipated that, and now you're not chayav for it all. So what then are we referring to? So the Gemara says we're going to go back to regel. So regel, the Gemara says we already said that the tolda of regel is like regel in all tzalachos. The Gemara says no. There's one tolda of regel we haven't mentioned, and that's pebbles, tzroiris. What's that? So the halacha is if an ox is walking and little rocks fly out from under his feet, and it flies through the air and it breaks something, you only have to pay half the damages for that. It's called chatzi nezik tzroiris. That's a halacha l'moshe misina, and it is different than the rest of regel things. It's not Karen. It's not like the chatzi nezik of Karen, where you're not fully responsible for it because you couldn't anticipate your ox turning violent. Here, you could anticipate that the ox was walking here, but it's only half nezek because it's regel and it flies. So the Gemara says, well, in what sense is it regel? So the Gemara answers, it's regel in the sense that you have to pay even more than the value of the ox. Generally, if it's keren, even you pay half nezek, and it's limited to the value of the ox. Here, because it's regel, it has halachos of regel, and you pay even what you have in what we call min aliyah from your own possessions, separate from the value of the ox itself. Says Gemara, but we have a sugya where we learn that Rava wasn't sure if that halacha is true. So Gemara says Rava wasn't sure, Rav Papa was sure. So Gemara says, well, according to Rava, how then is it like regel? Gemara says, according to Rava, it's like regel in the fact that if it happens in Rishus Harabim, you don't have to pay for it. Regel is patur in Rishus Harabim, it's only chayiv in Rishus Hayachid. So that concludes that Gemara's discussion. And now the Gemara moves back to the Mishnah where we mentioned Maveh and Hever. The Gemara is going to get into what we quoted earlier. What is the definition of Maveh? So as we said, it's Machlokes between Rav and Shmuel. Rav says it's a person. Shmuel says it is shein, it is tooth. And what's Rav's source for that? So Rav quotes a pasuk in Yeshaya. It says, Amar Shemer Asa Baiger V'gam Laila Im Tivayun Be'oyu Shuvu Esoyu. So the word Be'oyu is like the word Maveh. It's the same. And here you have the Shemer speaking, so it's a human. This is a human activity. Now Shmuel says it refers to teeth. And he quotes a pasuk in Obadiah, Ichnech Basu Esav Nivu Matzpunov. And there it's referring to nivu, that's what's related to the word maveh. What does this have to do with teeth? So the Gemara says Rav Yosef was metargim. He said targum on this pasuk, and the word nivu he was metargim as isgalin. So it means revealing. And therefore it refers to teeth, which as we said, their nature is to be hidden and sometimes be revealed. Now, the Gemara asks, why did Rav not say like Shmuel? Why did Shmuel not say like Rav? So the Gemara says the Mishnah's word Maveh is not exactly like either of them. Rav didn't like the fact that it says Maveh and not Nivu, like Shmuel says. It should have said Niva, and Shmuel says it doesn't say Bua. According to him, it's like Ba'ayu, that's what it should have said. So the Gemara says the Mishnah doesn't interfere with either of them, so neither of them could be happy with it, so that can't be the reason they didn't like the other's pshat. So the Gemara is going to go more deeply into this sugya, which will take us deep into the next stuff. But to begin with, the Gemara just says that Rav didn't want to say like Shmuel because we already said Shar in the Mishnah. And Shar therefore should include Karen, Shein, and Regel. Shein shouldn't be listed separately. And the Gemara says that Shmuel held that Shar in the Mishnah just means Karen. Shein is listed here with Maveh, and Regel will have to see where that is.